What's up everyone, it's Henrik, your friendly crypto host, and on this channel I invest my hard-earned money in the latest and the hippest crypto projects so you don't have to spend your precious dollars to figure out which ones are hot, which ones are not, and which ones are complete scams, which, spoiler alert, that's kind of most of them. So you're welcome. In today's video, we are going to talk about what a crypto project actually is, what crypto nodes are, how you invest in them, and what to look for before you hand over your hard-earned savings. If you feel like you know a lot of this already, feel free to skip ahead. There are chapter markers down below. In order to understand what a crypto project is, we have to go back to the beginning of crypto with good old Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the very first crypto project, and the project itself was to develop Bitcoin and the blockchain it sits on. That in turn paved the way for many more crypto projects, which all had a purpose. Typically, it's the development of a technology, a blockchain, and most often a crypto coin attached to the project as well. Some of these projects developed their own blockchains, while others simply used existing blockchains. The project's crypto coins or tokens were put in circulation, and the project raised money when people invested in these coins. Over the years, using crypto coins to fund projects became increasingly popular because it was so much simpler to put together an ICO, and that's an initial coin offering, than to try and obtain investments through the sale of old school shares and stocks. And this is because the SEC regulates the sale of securities and security offerings heavily, but there are little to no regulations on ICOs. This lack of regulation led to ICOs being tied to all kinds of projects imaginable, and a myriad of coins were eventually created and sold to investors. Now, often the only thing tying these crypto projects to crypto itself was the fact that they offered cryptocurrency and the use of a blockchain. Eventually, investors started to grow wary of ICO offerings that were essentially very thinly veiled scams, and this led to the new kind of crypto projects we're now seeing popping up everywhere, the crypto nodes projects. The other thing that happened around that same time was that the YouTube like button was rising to fame. This little button became crucial to channel growth, so if you would gently give this tiny little button a little nudge right now, and maybe even consider subscribing as well, I would greatly appreciate it. This all brings us to today, where we are being flooded with videos and ads about the latest and greatest crypto nodes to invest in. Promises of almost limited returns are everywhere, and these projects sound very official and very plausible because they tell you that you're not just investing in a crypto project or a crypto coin, you're investing in your own personal money-generating crypto node. Doesn't that sound fancy? And just the sound of that makes me want to invest money right away. But hold your money transfers for just a little bit, because crypto nodes, as we see them in most of the current crypto projects, may not be exactly what you think they are. In the old days, like last year, a node typically implied something tangible. Nodes were most often a set amount of computing power tied to a common network while performing specific tasks. Now, these tasks depended on the project, but the idea of nodes was to decentralize the work and often to bring the resources closer to the end users. There were a couple of different ways you could invest in old school nodes. You could give money directly to the company that owned and operated the nodes to help them with the hardware and the running cost of the nodes. Or you could also build your own node, either with physical hardware or virtual hardware in the cloud, and then offer the use of these nodes to the company, who in return would pay you for their usage of that node. As of recently, all of this has changed. The current wave of crypto projects still have blockchains and coins attached to them, and they still have nodes. But the nodes are where the big differences are. When most of the current crypto projects ask investors to create nodes, these nodes don't actually do anything. They're simply money buckets of different sizes that investors can pour their money into while thinking they're contributing to something productive. I've come up with a convenient acronym for the concept behind this new kind of nodes. The concept is Superior Crypto Accumulation Method, or SCAM. But if these SCAM nodes don't actually work, how do investors get paid? This is the genius part of the system. As an investor, you get paid rewards based on the size of the money bucket you decided to fill for the company. And these rewards are often insanely high. at least on the surface. Many of these SCAM projects are dangling rewards in the order of 1%. And if you don't think that sounds very attractive, that's because you're thinking that's what you get paid per year, but it's not. You're often promised 1% in rewards per day. Essentially, you're being told that you're buying into a money machine that will continue to print money for you every day for the rest of your life. And who doesn't want that? Now, obviously, this sounds too good to be true, and sadly, it is. But before we look at that, let's look at how nodes and rewards typically work in these new projects. The SCAM nodes often come in different sizes. You decide how much you want to invest, and you pick the node size you're comfortable with. You want to invest $100? Great, here's a tiny little node. It will run you very little money, and you can get going right away. Want to invest $100,000 instead? Great, here's a monster node. It will cost you a lot of money, but you're going to get a lot more rewards in return. We have something for everyone. As soon as you drop your money into the money bucket of your liking, a node is created and it starts accumulating rewards for you immediately. 1% per day, or whatever the project offered, every day, like clockwork. So far, so good. And as you may figure, there are advantages to giving these crypto projects larger amounts of money in a bigger bucket. Many SCAM projects have extra incentives that will increase your daily reward based on the size of the money bucket you choose. That, of course, all makes sense. You give the company more money and you're awarded with higher rewards. But we are not done yet, because the crypto company typically likes receiving money from you much better than paying it out to you. Because of that, they offer what they call compounding. If instead of pulling out your daily reward, you pour it back into your bucket will obviously grow, which means you'll get more rewards, which leads to a bigger bucket, which leads to even higher rewards, and so on and so forth. And when you're compounding at 1%, or maybe even up to 1.75% per day, your bucket grows very, very large, very, very fast. The math on this is so attractive that people immediately get dollar signs in their eyes and are blinded by millionaire dreams of being a crypto mogul whose life is traveling to exotic places and working for maybe 30 minutes by the pool. That is a good dream. But there is a catch. Of course there is. Actually, there are several catches. The first catch is that investing money into most of these money buckets is a one-way street. Once you put your money in the bucket, it never comes out. You're kissing it goodbye forever. Bye-bye. The same thing goes for your rewards. If you compound them back into your bucket, then you'll never see those again either. They'll be in your bucket, but you can't pull them out. Ever. That in itself is not the worst thing, since you have a choice on whether to compound your rewards or not, and when to stop any compounding you do. You are completely in charge of how much money you're willing to give away to the crypto project. Only your initial deposit is a required deposit. The rest are all voluntary. And when you compound your rewards, you're essentially giving up a little bit of earnings today in return for a much bigger earnings on a future date. So that does seem like a pretty good deal. I'd be willing to give up a few dollars today in return for daily payouts in the hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions someday in the future. Wouldn't you? But there's a problem here. Because of the attractiveness of the compounding, most people end up compounding indefinitely and never actually take any earnings out. And this is where the trouble is. Let's look at an example from the Vaporfy project to get a feel for just how much compounding can do for you. I dropped around $400 into this project about 2 weeks ago, and again, you're welcome. As you can see here, that gave me some buckets that have a daily reward of around 1% plus a bonus, and in a few more days I'm going to get an additional bonus, so things are starting to add up quickly. Now, because of all these rules, it gets complicated to keep track of the numbers, but luckily Vaporfy offers a handy-dandy calculator here on their project page. Before we go into the calculations, you also need to know that you can't put dollars or any mainstream currency into your SCAM nodes. You can't even put cryptocurrency into them. The only thing you can put in them are coins related to the projects. In the case of Vaporfy, these coins are called VPND coins. And because they are such a fringe project, you can't buy VPND on your regular crypto exchanges. Instead, you have to first buy an intermediate coin named AVAX and then buy VPNDs with that coin. It is a bit of a pain to do so, but once you get used to it, it's actually not terrible. It does, however, present another level of risk, but we'll get back to that just a little bit later as well. For now, let's assume that you purchased the 1,000 VPNDs that's required to start a node. If we jump over to CoinMarketCap, we can see that today's price for VPND is $0.387. So we plug that in here. That also means that our initial investment into the project will be $0.0387 multiplied by 1,000, which is $38.70. And in reality, it'll actually be slightly more than that, since you need a little reserve money to pay what's called node taxes and node fees, but these are kind of minor, so we're going to leave them out of the example for now. In the VPND calculator, you'll also get a chance to put in a price for what you think the VPND price will be when you're ready to pull your rewards out. I'm going to go with 0.065 because if we look at the chart for VPND and the time it's been around, that seems like a pretty good midpoint. Now, of course, any changes to the VPND price, up or down, are going to have significant impact into your return on this. But for now, let's just go with the 0.065. And bam! The calculator fills up with numbers and they're looking amazing. If you give up your earnings for 30 days and instead compound your rewards back into the project, at day 30, your node will have grown from 1,000 VPNDs to 1,602 VPNDs. That's a 60% return in 30 days. Who wouldn't love that? Of course, it's a return you don't actually get, but what you do get are daily rewards, which, because of the compounding and bonuses, now have jumped to $1.64 per day compared to 65 cents if you had not been compounding. $1.64 per day is not exactly millionaire money, but it does mean that if you stop compounding after 30 days, it will take you another 24 days to recoup your initial investment, and after that, you can pull out $1.64 every single day forever. That's a pretty good return for a $39 investment. Of course, no one actually does this because if you compound longer, things get significantly better. Let's say you instead decide to forego your daily earnings and instead compound them for the entire year. Now you're looking at a daily payout of $193.10. And if that doesn't sound big to you, let's convert that into an annual salary. We take $193.10 and multiply it by 365 because, your nodes work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That gives us a total of $70,481.50 per year. And all of that for an initial investment of around $39. And that is exactly why all of these new crypto node SCAM projects are so popular. But in the words of Meatloaf, before you jump on the SCAM node train, consider this. At the time I signed up for Vaporfy, a little over a week ago, there were approximately 17,000 active nodes. Today, there are 23,000, and I'm sure that the number will be much, much, much higher by the time you're watching this video. So let's say that these 23,000 node owners all put in the minimum amount of 1,000 VPND coins. That is a total investment in Vaporfy of 23,000 times 1,000 times 0.65, the average price of VPND, which comes out to be $1,495,000 that the company has taken in. $1.5 million is nothing to sneeze at, but now let's look at the payouts. If the owners of these same 23,000 nodes all decide to let their investments ride for a year, that means that a year from now, Vaporfy has to start paying out 23,000 times $193.10, which works out to be $4,441,300. That is quite a bit more than the $1.5 million they took in investments. But let's just say that they've invested the funds well and have been able to triple the investment over 365 days. Now Vaporfy can pay the $4,441,330 they owe a year from now to their investors. Yay! The problem is just that the day after they make that payout, they owe that same $4.4 million again. And the day after that, they owe it again, and again, and again. And this is where the foundation for most of all of these super popular SCAM crypto node projects falls apart. Even if they were to win the Powerball lottery every week going forward, there simply isn't enough money to pay what they promise. But because we are all so used to nodes being productive entities and we all want the easy money, millions of us are tricked into pouring money into these projects every day. On top of that, the above calculations are only good if the price of VPND and the price of the intermediary AVAX coin stays the same. If one of them drops, your payout will be less, and potentially a lot less, which of course may not matter if you wait a year, since you'll likely never see any payouts at that point anyway. And finally, keep in mind that because there are no contracts and no regulations, the owners of the crypto projects can, and most definitely will, change the reward structure anytime they want. This happens frequently and repeatedly to most crypto node projects. It's a bit like when you buy a timeshare in another country and they promise you 100 reward nights when you sign the contract, but when you go to use your nights, they have suddenly turned into 2 nights that are only good for a crappy property at the time of the year no one wants to go there. So, with all this in mind, should you still invest? Obviously, a lot of people do, so there must be something to this whole crypto node investing thing. I want you to remember that I am not an expert and my videos are not financial advice. I create them so you can hear my personal opinions and see for yourself how various investments work out for me. But the decision to invest or not invest is completely yours. There is money to be made in crypto node SCAM projects. Like in any good pyramid or Ponzi scheme, the going can be quite good until the system implodes. Bernie Madoff, for instance, created a lot of millionaires before the rest of his investors were left holding the bag. I'm not saying that crypto nodes are all pyramids and Ponzi schemes, but some of them do seem to have things in common with those structures. If you can get in at the right time, and more importantly, get out again at the right time, you may be able to make great returns on your investments. The problem is that by the time most of us become aware of these projects, we're at the bottom of the pyramid and are more likely to be the ones left holding the bag at the end. So if you're going to invest in a node project, I recommend viewing it completely as gambling and only invest money you can afford to lose. Count on losing it all and be pleasantly surprised if you get a return instead. Another and often far better thing to look for are node projects that are less vapor and more tangible. This means projects where the nodes are actually nodes that do some kind of work. Tangible is good, vapor bad. Of course, there's always a chance that any project's underlying crypto coin can go to the moon. If that happens, the project may be able to pay their promised rewards for slightly longer. And that may be all that's needed for investors to make a nice return. In our previous example, if VPND was to jump from $0.065 per coin to $50 per coin, your daily payouts would jump to $149,000 per day. Yay! Buy me a yacht. Of course, that will never happen, but here's to hoping. And while we wait for that, I'll keep reporting on how my crypto investments in these more or less dubious projects are doing. And if you'd like to see how and why I invested in Vaporfy, I have a video coming up about that right here, right now.